Jehoshaphat, by his example, raised the level of his devotion to the Lord in 4 ways. What's the first way? The first way is this. He raised the level of his devotion by following godly examples. In the opening of the text, from verses 1 through 6, we find some statements about his following godly examples. The first one comes in verse 3, where the text reads, Jehoshaphat followed the example of his father, King David, in his early years. We've mentioned that he was the great-great-great-grandson of King David. The Lord was with Jehoshaphat, the text reads, because he followed the ways of his father David before him. But how did he follow in those footsteps? Well, we have some clues in the text. In chapter 17 at verse 3, it says of Jehoshaphat, he did not consult the prophet of Baal's for advice. He sought counsel from the God of his father and followed his commands rather than the practices of Israel. So when it came to seeking God or seeking counsel, he wanted the counsel of the Lord. And we'll see this in the coming chapters. When it came to a question of military strategy or a king's decision, he wanted to hear from the prophets of the Lord, not from the prophets of Baal. And so he sought counsel from the Lord, not from other gods or prophets. Jehoshaphat also followed the example of his father, his biological father Asa. So there were 2 godly examples that influenced his life. His father David and his father Asa. In 1 Kings chapter 22, at verse 43, the text reads, in everything he followed the ways of his father Asa and did not stray from them. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. So Jehoshaphat's spiritual ambition was to know and obey the Lord. The text says his heart was devoted to the ways of the Lord. The first way in which he sought to express this devotion was in observing and patterning his life after godly men that he knew. He knew the example of his great-great-great-grandfather David, and he knew the example of his biological father Asa, and he followed the example of people who sought the Lord, who listened to his word, who obeyed his commands.